Hi YouTubers, it is I, Hell Gear, back from the movies of seeing this wonderful little gem right here. So, this is my movie review of Wreck-It Ralph 2, Ralph Breaks the Internet, also known as Wi-Fi Ralph. So, if you agree with or disagree with anything that I may have to say as far as this review goes, please do so, and I encourage you also to do so in the comments section below. Also, share your experiences with this film in the comments section below. But before I get into that, I want to just get a quick answer on a particular question that I'm asked when I do these movie reviews. And that is, how come when you do your movie reviews, it's just this still and you talking, where other people will do movie reviews, they show snippets of the movie? Well, there are a couple of reasons for that. Reason number two is because of copyright. You know, YouTube is a nasty beast, and they copyright every little thing that they can. Number one, there are plenty of trailers out there on social media, YouTube included, that have segments of the movie. So you've probably seen all this stuff that they'll show you in a segmented clip from someone else. And most importantly, I'm not giving you too many visual spoilers other than what you see here. And ironically enough, this is just wallpaper for the movie. It's not even the actual poster. I've seen all the good English posters, and the English posters for this movie blow. You know, the overseas posters for this movie are really great. So, like the previous movie, which I do have on DVD and Disney Blu-ray, I took the liberty of watching this prequel before going to see this. And to those of you who missed the first Wreck-It Ralph, I'll simply say it like this. Ralph is the antagonist of Fix-It Felix Jr., an arcade game in Litwack's Arcade, and it's been around for 30 years. And after a long time of being the bad guy, which nobody likes, he decided that he needed to change. He was tired of being the bad guy, didn't want to be the bad guy anymore, wanted a little recognition. And as a result, the other video games in the arcade are all like, you don't upset the programming, Ralph. So, on a quest to simply get a little change, a little spice of life, and try to be a hero, he ends up game jumping, finds his way into Sugar Rush, and saving the life of a usurped, malfunctioning program that everybody knows and loves as Vanellope Von Schweetz, who we later find out is the princess of said game. Now, flash forward to today. 6 years have passed since Wreck-It Ralph and Litwack's Arcade. And I have to say this. Kudos for Mr. Litwack for still keeping that arcade around, because in my neck of the woods, arcades are essentially dead and gone. So, kudos to Litwack. So, here's essentially the premise of this movie. Like most of the Disney animated films, we get a little bit of role reversal here. Where in the first one, Ralph was essentially getting tired of his mundane life and starting to cope with it, it's Vanellope's turn. She's getting tired of how her game is. Knows all the secrets, knows all the shortcuts, raced all the track, and she does that whole what is the meaning of life thing. Is there more to it? Then one day, Litwack gets with the times and he plugs in a Wi-Fi router. Which, thank you Sonic the Hedgehog for explaining to Ralph about Wi-Fi, aka the World Wide Web. Of course, it doesn't get taken too well, as you guys saw in the trailers. Surge Protector did the whole police tape do not cross deal. Now, amongst all of this, we get one of the many plot lines of this movie. as you've seen in the trailers, Sugar Rush gets unplugged. Now, of course, the reasoning behind this is Vanellope makes the same mistake Ralph did in the first movie, going against her programming. This causes the steering wheel to malfunction and eventually break, which, again, as you saw in the trailers, the game gets unplugged. And we have our problem, which soon becomes a solution when one of the kids, I believe it's the Muppet Girl from the first movie, finds a replacement part. And what I found interesting is the company that makes Sugar Rush, which we would know from the first movie as Toby Comey, went out of commission years ago, and the part is rather expensive. So it's up to Ralph and Vanellope to surf the web and find this part to save her game from being scrapped, as Litwack is trying to get rid of it by the end of the week. One of the greatest things about this movie is, of course, the friendship between Wreck-It Ralph and Vanellope von Schweetz. Yes, she still gets hit with her whole princess deal, but Vanellope still likes to keep her saying at the end of the first movie, "The code may say I'm a princess, but I'm just me." And she stays true to a good majority of that throughout the duration of this movie. And the funny thing about this movie, as you've probably heard from other reviews and even the commercials, and how it's hashtag winning and an amazing movie, there's more to it than it being an amazing movie and from what you've seen. So let's jump forward to them going into the internet. And this is one thing that I have to really take a time to acknowledge here. So I'm going to hit the slow motion on the reel here and talk about this. As you saw in the trailer commercials, the internet portrayed by Disney is like this never-ending metropolis with all of these various places like eBay and YouTube and Google and Twitter, as you can see on the right next to Ralph. Yes, Twitter is represented by a tree and blue birds chirping, aka the tweets. And in all honesty, I can rip on Sony for this one, because when Sony did their own version of the internet in their failed disaster known as the Emoji Movie, Disney actually does it right. But if there's one thing I've learned about this movie, is that characters that show up are within two means. The second means of why they show up is related to Disney, Marvel, LucasArts, all of their brands. And most importantly, because this is one thing I find really interesting, is all of the royalties that Disney had to shell out in the production of this movie, which is based off of two video game characters that we all know and love. And I say this because, again, there are a lot of logos from real life existing things that take place. It also goes into one particular topic near the finishing touches of this movie. In the press conference of the previous movie, it was mentioned that Mario was guaranteed to appear in this movie. But just before the final release of the movie came out, it was broken that Mario would not appear in the movie. And there are a good couple of reasons for this. And it's something I probably will take the time to ask Charles Martinet when I go to the anime convention coming up, and he's going to be there as a speaker, which is going to be fun. Thing number two is, again, there's a lot of third-party companies that are represented in this movie, not just by logo, but by name, and even by the characters within this movie themselves. So you obviously know Disney had to shell out that icky, sticky, wrinkly, old people green money just to have a particular logo show up for about 5 or 10 seconds, or a good segment of it. Nintendo is one of these various companies, but the problem is, and this is another reason why why Mario isn't here, not because they couldn't get a hold of Charles Martinet. I mean, let's be real, Charles Martinet is a real cool dude, and he would have had no problem having the time, just even for a couple of seconds, where Mario shows up and goes, "Mamma mia!" The thing is, Nintendo is real strict about their poster plumber. And as you've noticed in many of the Mario games, even in Super Mario Sunshine, where it's the only game that has actual voice acting, Mario doesn't say a lick. And since Mario is Nintendo's silent hero, one of them anyway, and the silent hero to be represented in this movie, where Disney probably wanted him to have some actual speaking role, perhaps it was Mario that was supposed to explain the internet to Ralph, but hey, Roger Craig Smith and Sonic do it a lot better. They'll tussle over it in Smash Brothers. That conflicts with silent hero thing, so yeah, Mario ain't here. Now when we get to the internet, the premise is simple. Find where they're selling the wheel, which ironically enough happens to be eBay. Purchase the wheel and go home. And the one thing I love about that, and as we saw in one of the commercials, is it presents another problem. They have to pay for it. Like all things in eBay, they have to pay for it in real money. So, this gets into the secondary plot of this movie. Raising the money to rescue Vanellope's game. And they do this, well, they go about this in two ways. The shady way and the trend-setting way. The shady way involves the one game that you saw, Slaughter Race. And it is here in this Slaughter Race that they meet the most unlikely of allies, coming from a street racer by the name of Shank. Yeah. The ironic thing about Shank is, despite being the tough girl, gangster, street, she actually has some of the best bits of advice in this movie. Not just about how to save the game, but also with another issue that comes up. And that issue is this. While Vanellope visits this slaughter race, she finds a sense of purpose. Which explains a segment in one of the trailers where it's her and Shank having a talk on the car. After a botched shady attempt, Shank refers Ralph and Vanellope to perhaps the most infamous character in the movie, voiced by Taraji P. Henson, yes, the Chief Algorithm. And it is where we find the more convenient way to stack them chips to buy the steering wheel. And that's where Ralph decides to post viral videos. Many viral videos. Which is where you saw him with the little goat, which, that wasn't just on the commercials. It was also one of the Wreck-It Ralph's official tweets. But the commercial of him doing the floss, that whole Fortnite thing. Fortnite actually makes a cameo in this, too, in the movie. Again, wrinkly old people's green money. And Ralph becomes a hit. But, unlike regular Disney movies, ending it there seems pointless. And while Ralph is busy trying to promote his videos, Vanellope gives us the most enlightening part of this movie. The princess segment. Which, if you can see in both sides of the background, we have the Pixar and Disney princesses. Ooh, gotta get that fly right there. Okay. And the princess segment, which is something that everybody was looking forward to, I can say about this. Number two, almost every person who did the princess's roles, from Sleeping Beauty to Moana, with I believe the exception of one, has reprised their roles. It's the same actors from each of the movies. Tiana still Tiana, you know, the lady who did Mulan still voices Mulan, the girl who voices Merida from Brave still voices Brave, and in a horrible Irish accent to that, which is kind of sad, which is why they rip on her. And something else that was unexpected but I liked, and that's the fact that the Disney princesses actually ripped on the creators during this segment, and I love that. But in the process of this, they teach Vanellope the princess moment. Yeah, the princess moment. Every Disney princess has the princess moment, including the Disney princess that is not shown in this movie, Star Butterfly from Star vs. the Forces of Evil. Again, Constricts, they probably couldn't get a hold of Eden Sher, who voices Star in the cartoon. But yeah, Star is the newest Disney princess. Even Star Butterfly had a princess moment. And as they're explaining the princess moment to Vanellope, she's like, well, I never had my princess moment. And sometime down the line, Vanellope gets her princess moment. And I've seen every Disney princess's princess moment, and I must say, the way they did Vanellope's princess moment not only gets to the point, not only explains the McDonald's toy where she's in the car, but it was actually the best princess moment of every Disney princess to date, including Star Butterfly. So, instead of saving the game, which, you know, we can save the game, but why? That doesn't make for a thrilling movie, which goes into the real major plot of this movie, and of course, it's the lesson of friendship. A lesson that Ralph and Vanellope not only get some wisdom from by Shank, and a little bit of wisdom from the Disney princesses, and even Yes, but they learn something the hard way. Some of the tougher parts about friendship. And this is one of the things that many reviewers love about this movie, is the friendship lessons that happen in this. So who's the antagonist? As that's the big question of the movie. Now, I'm going to tell everybody this. I took a survey of who people, you, other viewers of the series, thought would be the antagonist for Wreck-It Ralph 2. One character had a majority decision, and I will be honest to all of you. Everyone who had that majority decision on who the antagonist for this movie is, you are wrong. That is my spoiler I give to you. The very character that you think is the antagonist of this movie is not the antagonist of this movie. Who the antagonist of this movie is? Well, you're just going to have to watch this wonderful film to find out exactly who. A lot of interesting segments were cut from this movie that we saw in the trailers. A good example was the commercial where Ralph and Vanellope are looking at the sad cat poster. I didn't see that at all in this film. And I didn't leave the theater seat. And I was essentially in the second row of the auditorium. I mean, literally, seat B5. Seat B5. Second row, in the middle. Already mentioned Mario. And apparently, there's supposed to be a cutaway where Sergeant Calhoun and Taffeta have their own little misadventure. Which Honestly, that would have been nice as as an animated short before the movie, which for a first time in Disney animated history, this does not have an animated short before the movie, unlike The Incredibles 2, and most importantly, how Paperman was to the previous movie. Am I mad about that? No. That's fine. Especially since this was a really good killer of time on an otherwise rainy afternoon. And mind you, I caught the third showing of the day at 11:30 in the morning. Woo! That was a sold out house. So, man, like I said, I was lucky to get in there. So let's talk about the key points of an animated film. First and foremost is the animation itself. For the 3D animation and the time they spent developing this movie, everything looks crisp and clean. Every detail that you see in this poster essentially is a glimpse into the movie. It looks really great. You know, you can tell the detail in the hair, which is something that you didn't get in the first movie, because, you know, animation is different at the time. They even did that nice little moment where the creators of the film did their little thank you and acknowledgments like they did in Incredibles 2. You know, the storyline, I enjoyed the storyline a little bit too much for my sake, but it wasn't perfect. There are some parts of this storyline that I didn't find too happy. Two particular parts in particular are, one, having to deal with the Sugar Rush racers as they're trying to find homes from their game being unplugged. That was kind of a nice little side story. And two, the part where Ralph goes to the dark net. While it was brief, I was expecting a bit more out of it, and essentially the part about the dark net, you know, that kind of gave it a -1 on the scale of the rating here. So this is not getting a perfect score in light of the wonderful story that this portrays. So what do we take away? We as people take away from Wreck-It Ralph 2. Well, first and foremost, one, you decide your own destiny. Alright? Ralph made his own destiny in the previous movie. This movie was Vanellope's turn to make her own destiny. Finding where you belong is never an easy thing. Not just for kids in the virtual world, not just for people online, but also we as sentient beings in this wonderful universe called the Milky Way galaxy. But finding your place is one of those things that you have to do. Everybody has their little, I'm not even going to use that euphemism there, but when you get your place and you know it, you feel for it, you know that's where you want to be. You won't necessarily get the princess moment like Vanellope did, but you'll know it when you feel it and when you get there. And most importantly, friendship has its upsides, middle grounds, downsides, and most importantly, the parts about friendship that people don't want to talk about, especially since they are the parts that you do not like. It tests friendship in this movie, and that's the biggest takeaway from it. And the friendship between these two besties is so irreplaceable that not even Shank and the Disney princesses are able to put a wedge between them. You know, they're like two peas in an oddly shaped pod, and the dynamic works almost to a capital T. It's a lowercase t, but not a capital T. You know, is it worth seeing more than once? Sure. You know, I personally think that this movie is worth seeing 3 times. And when you do see it, I want you to note a couple of things. Thing number 1, and this is one of these are a couple of my spoilers that I give to you. During one of the segments, there's an office meeting where their people are watching one of Ralph's videos. On the table is a figurine of a red dragon. Remember that figurine, because if there's one thing Disney films like to do is they like to make either one particular object or something as a giveaway to their next movie, and my gut is telling me that that little red dragon figurine is it. And I'm not saying that because DreamWorks is coming with How to Train Your Dragon 3 next spring. Number 2, during the end credits, there's a scene where they give off an IP address. And when I say IP address, it's, you know, the number. I don't remember exactly what that IP address is. But do me a favor. Type that in your URL and let me know in the comment section below exactly where that address takes you. If it's just some fake Addy, if it's to Oh My Disney, if it's to Wreck-It Ralph's official site, let me know. So on the movie scale, I give Wreck-It Ralph a good 9.7 out of 10. There are some moments I didn't like about this, but they were very few. You know, the princess scene actually confirmed one thing that many of us didn't think all along, as Vanellope being an actual princess, because she doesn't dress like a princess, or she gave up the role of being princess for being President Vanellope von Schweetz. As she said in the first movie, the code may say I'm a princess, but I'm still me. And most importantly, I needed a little bit more action going on in this movie. You know, the chase scene with Shank was one of the only action scenes in this movie. It was still one of the better action scenes of the movie, which is kind of a blow to me, because I would like to have seen a bit more action. Something that the first Wreck-It Ralph movie had. But that's all I'm going to say on this matter. Again, let me know what your experiences are of this movie in the comment section below, and if you agree with or disagree with whatever I have said in this movie review. See it in the theaters while you can. It's probably going to be in... It should hit Disney DVD sometime in the spring. Maybe around February, as my guess. Thank you guys for watching. Sorry about the phone. And if you enjoyed my movie review, show your love, hit the like button. More movie reviews are on the way, especially because I want to go see that Dumbo flick. But for now, I take my goose from the oven because I'm done. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye.